Welcome to another episode of Erik Wait Whiskey Studies, and in this video, gonna do a review of the Glengoyne Cask Strength Single Malt Scotch Whisky. This is batch number 8. So this video is part of a series that I'm doing for studying for exam for the Council of Whiskey Masters for the Certified Specialist of Whiskeys. That is the level 2. In this video, I'm going to cover the history, the production, and then I'm going to do a review of this whiskey. Glengoyne Distillery has been continuously in operation since its founding in 1833 at Glengoyne, Scotland, on the south edge of the Scottish Highlands, close to Loch Lomond and north of Glasgow. Glengoyne Distillery is unique in producing Highland single malt whiskey matured in the lowlands. Located upon the Highland line, the division between the Highlands and the lowlands of Scotland. Glengoyne stills are in the Highlands, while the maturing casks of whiskey rest across the road in the lowlands. In 1833, it was first owned by George Connell, who erected a distillery and took a lease on the surrounding land. He also built a warehouse, which is still very much in use today. The distillery was first licensed as the Burnfoot Distillery in 1833 by the Edmundston family. In 1851, the distillery known as Burnfoot Distillery was sold to John McClelland. In 1869, Cochrane Cartwright became the distillery manager. In 1876, the distillery was sold by Archibald McClelland to the Lang brothers, who were based in Glasgow. The name was changed to Glengoyne, which means Glen of the Wild Geese. It is stated that the Langs intended the name to be Glengoyne, but due to a mistake by a clerk, it was recorded as Glengoyne. In 1907, William McGeechee changed the name from Glengoyne of Barefoot to Glengoyne Distillery, meaning Glen of the Wild Geese. In 1965, the distillery remained with the Lang brothers until taken over by the Robertson and Baxter Group, who later became the Edrington Group. 1966 to 1967, the number of stills was increased from 2 to 3 as the distillery underwent a rebuilding project. In 1984, the Lang brothers became suppliers of whiskies to the then Queen Mother, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth's household. The royal warrant has since been delegated to Ian McLeod, and it is featured on all Glengoyne products. In April 2003, Ian McLeod Distillers Limited acquired Glengoyne Distillery for £7.2 million. This acquisition included Glengoyne Single Malt and Lang's Blended Whiskey brands. The acquisition of Glengoyne Distillery meant that Ian McLeod became a fully integrated distiller, blender, and bottler. Under Ian McLeod, Glengoyne saw a vast increase in output capacity as well as a similar rise in sales. In 2012, Glengoyne 15 and 18-year-olds were released, as well as a non-age statement cask strength expression. In 2022, today, Glengoyne has 8 working warehouses with a total capacity of nearly 2 million liters, or 4.5 million bottles of spirit. The core range for the UK domestic market consists of age statements of 10-year, 12-year, 15-year, 18-year, 21-year, and 25-year-olds. It also includes a cask strength bottling. The Glengoyne Cask Strength Highland Single Malt Scotch Whisky Batch 8 is a blend of whiskey from 29% first fill sherry cask, 16% first fill bourbon cask, 55% hand-selected quality oak refill cask. It has natural color, it's non-chill filtered, bottled at 59.2% alcohol by volume, and sells for about $85. So, if you didn't take any notes, you might want to go back and rewatch that, because on a live stream following this, we're going to do another look at Glengoyne Distillery, and we're going to have a quiz, probably about 10 questions, and get a little bit more into the distillery. I'm going to tell you straight up, this is an absolutely fantastic whiskey. I highly recommend it. If you can get a bottle of it, I would say buy it. I haven't even given you my notes on it. I'm just telling you straight up, this is an absolutely superb whiskey, particularly for this price. Although it's more than likely Oloroso. The bottle doesn't say, or the box doesn't specify, Oloroso. Nevertheless, it probably is Oloroso, but the way in which they're using second fill cask plus bourbon cask, it sort of tames that typical sort of, dark, dried black fruit notes, right? So it's not that, your typical sherry bomb of the dark, dried black fruit notes of dates and raisins and fig and all that. So if that's what you're looking for in a sherry cask, this isn't it. They have dialed in the characteristics using the second fill plus the bourbon cask, which actually makes this come across a little bit more like a Fino cask or an Amontillado cask. I did a several month series on sherry and sherry cask finished whiskeys, and so was really able to sort of calibrate my brain as to what a Fino or an Amontillado, of course, Palo Cantado and Pedro Jimenez cask or an Oloroso cask is. So this really does come across much more like a whiskey that is aged in a Fino or Amontillado. How so? One, there's this distinctive almond nuttiness on it. I also get sort of a caramel and vanilla coffee creamer note on it. Caramel and vanilla, but more like, you know, those really sweet coffee creamers. I have to admit, yes, I put those in my coffee, but that's how this comes across on the nose and on the palate. Also get some dried peach, perhaps some dried apple, a little bit of spiciness, and just a hint of a sort of an almond character on the palate. It's pretty sweet all the way through on entry to the mid, and it finishes with a little bit of nuttiness. Absolutely delicious. The vanilla and caramel coffee creamer is up front. A little bit of, say, dried peach, some dried stone fruit character, perhaps a little bit of dried apple, get a little bit of cinnamon and baking spices character, and then on the back end there's this nice nuttiness, and it actually dries a little bit on the back end. Nice long finish. Really nice viscosity and round mouthfeel. I love the development on it. I love how it just sort of coats the mouth. So it's got a lot of complexity in there. It isn't a one chord song. It's got a lot of depth, a lot of breadth. On ice, it's like a melted pecan ice cream with some caramel syrup put on it. It does really, really well on ice or with a little bit of water. At this ABV, you know, a little ice or water is not going to hurt it at all. I'm going to say, particularly if you can get this for under $100, I paid, I think it was like $88 for it. This, I would say, is a must-buy whiskey. Absolutely love it, love it, love it. What I'm going to give it in terms of a score, definitely it has the complexity and the range of flavors and the length of finish that I like to get me above 90 points. So I'm probably going to go like a solid 94, almost 95, but I'm going to go 94 points on this one. This is definitely going to make my top 10 for 2022. An absolutely superb whiskey. You know, actually, to tell you the truth, I actually like it on ice a little bit more. On ice, because the cask characteristics are getting accentuated with ice, whereas the spirit characteristics,
Oh, son of a gun. You thought I was going to say son of a bitch, didn't you?
spirit characteristics are sort of backed off a little bit. You get more of the cask characteristics, and just really, really, really delicious. On ice, I actually would probably take it up to 95, but judging it neat as the way it is, I'm gonna go 94. What's the point, you know? It's really nicely balanced between the sweet and the nuttiness on the back end. Maybe just a hint of saltiness there, but just a little bit. In some ways, you might think of a light chocolate candy bar with some peanuts and caramel nougat in it. You might use that as a descriptor as well, but just a fantastic whiskey. Alrighty, that's it for this video. If you like watching my videos, but you've not yet subscribed, I ask you to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified for when I go live or post a new video. And be sure to catch me live following the posting of this video as we get more into Glengoyne Distillery. Until next time, cheers. Hey, don't forget to subscribe and check out these other whiskey videos.